Hello and welcome. My name is Chris Njoku. Today we are going to be looking at weighted average. I'm so excited to bring this to us because this is an Excel skill that involves the use of functions. We are going to be using two different functions to obtain our weighted average. The weighted average is mostly what is used in schools to calculate the final score of a student. Now let's look at this. Assuming this is the profile of a particular student and the student had these scores 65 till 71, and these scores were obtained in test 1, test 2, test 3, midterm, test 4, and then final exams. Now, as it is the tradition of every school, every test has its own weight, more like credit, kind of. So, the test and the final exam will probably not have the same weight. The test and the midterm test might not have the same weight. So, in order to calculate the weighted average, you have to consider the score and then the weight. And how do you do that? In weighted average, you use the sum product and the sum. This is how it goes. Let's assume this is where we want to get the weighted average of this particular student. So we'll say equals sum product. So for the sum product, the arrays that are expected are the score row and then the weight row. So we quickly select the score row, comma, and then the weight row, and then we close it. So we now divide it by the sum of the weights. We divide it by the sum of the weights. And so we say sum. So we select the range of the weight. We close it. And then we hit our enter key. It has given us 71.5 as the weighted average of this student. So now, for us to have a good understanding of what we have done here now, I want to manually go about this without using so much functions. I want to do it in such a way that you understand what we have done. This is how weighted average is done. Let's assume test 1 now. The test 1, the student scored 65 in test 1 and the weight of test 1 is 1. So in weighted average, you pick each score, multiply it by the weight, and then you add it to another score multiplied by the weight, another score multiplied by the weight until the final score of that student. And then you divide it by the sum of all the numbers of the weight. So now let's get into that and see if we're going to obtain the same weight what we already got, which is 71.5. So in order to do that, for test 1, we will now say equals, bracket open, this is the test, and then we'll multiply it by the weight, and then we'll close the bracket and we'll say plus, bracket open, test 2 multiplied by the weight, and then we'll close, and then we'll say plus, bracket open, test 3 multiply by the weight, and then we'll close. We'll say equals, bracket open, midterm multiply by the weight, close the bracket, plus, bracket open, test 4 multiply by the weight, close, plus, bracket open, test final exam multiply by the weight, and then we close the bracket. Now we're going to be dividing it by the sum of the weight of the product. So say equals, we can even do that as well this way by saying bracket open. Mhm. This plus this plus this plus this plus this plus this. So we'll close the bracket. As you can see, we've done the needful. Bracket is open for every of the individual addition. You have to close it completely. We have two brackets. One is for the test, the other one is for closing all of the test and midterm and final exam together. And so these two brackets are very, very important. If you're going to be using Excel, you have to learn how to use operators very well, and then you have to learn how to manipulate using board mass. So looking at this now, we have been able to get everything in order as it is. So what we do next is to hit our enter key. We do that. This is what we obtain. This is just how straightforward it can be. If you miss out on anything, you are going to get it wrong. In order to have smooth calculation, you use the weighted average for it to be smooth, because this other manipulation of multiplying a test by the weight and then you close the bracket, and it is clumsy and then you can easily make mistake. The best you can do is to use the weighted average to find your way around, and then in few lines you are done with what you're supposed to do. I'm going to be coming up with another to show us how to do a complete score sheet for students. Just stick to this channel.